Greetings. Welcome again to another episode of All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. My name is Brother Esquire. First, we want to thank Almighty God for providing us with this platform to come before you today. And in observance of Kuji Jakalia, we want to say to all of our guests, Happy Kwanzaa. And today, Kuji Jakalia means self-determination, where we determine for ourselves, create for ourselves, and we define ourselves. And to me, there's probably no other sport which embodies and personifies Kuji Jakalia than the sport of boxing. We have, as you know, in our history, Muhammad Ali, who embodied self-determination. In fact, it was because of his teacher, he was given the name Muhammad Ali and got rid of his slave name, Cassius Clay, which was such a revolutionary act at that time. And in fact, it's still considered revolutionary now to be able to self-determine and just determine and use a name that is not given or is part of the legacy or lineage of the slave master. Well, today we're going to have a special episode on the sport of boxing. A few weeks ago, for 2 weeks, we had a very heavy topic, which was sex trafficking in your backyard. Know the signs. And our guest, Sister Danielle X, came before us. We had Councilwoman Farrah Lewis. We also had Monique Ferguson Riley, and they provided some vital information. Well, our topic is a bit lighter today, but we have a heavyweight with us. He's a boxing enthusiast, an entrepreneur, and he has done tremendous work in the industry of boxing. I'd like to welcome to our show today our special guest, Lamar Clark. Brother Lamar, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Jock. Thanks for having me, man. Happy Kwanzaa, man. How you doing?
Happy Kwanzaa. Thank you for joining us this Sunday. And we're going to talk about the industry of boxing and all of its various facets. And I'm just excited to have you here because I know of the study of the engagement that you've had around the sport of boxing. But for our guests, just give us a background of how you became involved in the sport of boxing.
Just a huge boxing fan. I'll start out as just a huge boxing fan, man. You know, coming up, as youngins, we used to, I'm not a boxer, but we used to slap box in the street. And, just like that was my car, that was my favorite boxer. It was what we used to call out, cats like Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali and these guys, man. So just a big boxing fan, man. I'm also art director in terms of graphic designer, and I worked in magazines. So that's been my career, but I always wanted to do a boxing magazine. I always wanted to sort of, bring these two together some kind of way. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do that. And in 2013, I was hired by the Ring magazine to become the art director for that title. And, been doing it ever since, man.
Wow. And the Ring magazine, it's been around for quite some time. I believe that's like the Bible of boxing, correct?
Ring magazine, our tagline is the Bible of boxing. And in February 2022, we will actually be 100 years old, man. So we're actually in our centennial year, started in February. So for the next, 9 or 10 months, we will be celebrating a lead up to 100 years of publication, man, which is a phenomenal feat, giving the environment today in terms of magazines and print and so forth. Magazines are dying by the wayside, but we're so niche, we've been able to exist for this long, man.
Wow. And our show today is entitled The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Boxing. Can you walk us through what you think is the good, what you think is the bad and what is the ugly of the boxing world?
I mean, yeah. As far as the good, I would, well, not to the obvious, but the sport has given us some of the most significant characters and athletes of the 20th century, man, including Muhammad Ali. The opportunity that boxing has created for the youth. Um, it's a combat sport. It's a sport that it's not for everyone, but I think that we are blessed to be able to appreciate the athletes that we've gotten through the sport. And like I said, it has brought us some of the most celebrated celebrities in our lifetime, man. Coming from boxing, I would say that's the good part. The bad is the obvious also, which is it's a brutal sport.
Mm.
It's a sport where you can get hurt, and we've had some casualties through the years. Actually, last year, there was a young kid, Patrick Day, out of New York City, who passed away in the ring. So that is the bad part of boxing, and the ugly, I would say, is the corruption that kind of happens in boxing. You know, Not all the boxers are taken care of the way that they should be or can, and they ended up not as well off as they could. So I would say that is the ugly part
Wow.
of boxing. Yeah, man.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
Well, oftentimes when we think about boxing, especially as young people, we think that the only way, we can get involved in boxing is to put on some boxing gloves. But I understand that boxing is a vast industry that has various lines of employment. Can you talk to us a bit about what what are some of those careers outside of the boxing ring,
Oh, for
maybe?
sure. Like myself, I said I'm just a huge boxing fan. I was able to take my career, and spin it into you know, um, an extended time into the boxing industry, which has led to other opportunities for me, just in terms of some of my side hustles and things like that. But I mean, just like every other athletic organization is, there's so many things you can be done behind the scenes. There's the marketing of the sport. When you're dealing with the networks, you talk about some of the biggest networks that are involved in terms of ESPN and Showtime, and HBO is no longer in the game. But I mean, there's so many avenues and ways that you can enter into this world and be successful. There's management, there's training, there's a this it's got a lot of legs, man. A lot of legs.
So, getting back to the ugly part of boxing, you talked about corruption and some of the things that happen, and we know in reading stories and looking at stories, there are numerous boxers who die absolutely broke.
Mm.
And is there any organizations out there that you know of, or um, anything to safeguard our boxers once they kind of transition from boxing to
You know what?
civilian life?
No, it's not really, man. To be honest with you, man. Similar, with the NBA and the NFL, they have associations, and then in their leagues, they're a group of owners that come together, and then there's players who have, the NFL unions and so forth, the NBA Players Association, where they have representation. Boxing it doesn't have that. There's a sport where it's really pretty much put together between a promoter who's an individual who makes a deal with a network, who's a corporation, and the boxer. In some terms, it's almost hired work. I hate to put it that way, but in some cases that is the scenario. You have people like Floyd Mayweather who took a different route. Who was able to say, I'm not working for you, you're working for me. But it takes time to get to that level. So to answer your question, there is no real organization. There's some, I would say, some, retirement, groups out there who, guys have got together who form retirement groups who try to support fighters in terms of their medical needs and so forth. But as a union, it doesn't exist, man. One thing that does happen that I'm seeing and I appreciate is some of the fighters who are taking care of each other. I had a conversation with Andre Ward, and that was one of the questions I had asked him. Was in terms of the face of boxing, how would you perceive, being that person? He's like, man, I just want to play my role, and my role would be, I've sort of, seen this movie before in terms of his career, and he wants to be able to, give information to the younger fighters, some of the guys that are coming up right now, like Shakur Stevenson, and some of these young guys, and share that knowledge. So I think that as an organization, in terms of a fraternity, that is the direction that some of the boxers have taken in order to take care of each other.
Got it. Got it. We do have a question on the floor, but before I ask it, I would like our viewing audience to like, subscribe, and share our episode. Go to Brother Esquire, and we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and as well as Twitter. So like, share, and subscribe, and start a watch party right now, if you may. We want to thank you again from the All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast for joining us. The question that we have on the floor here is from our good friend of the All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast, Diane Lake. And Diane writes, do all boxers have health and life insurance policies? And I think that's a great question, especially when you see some of these boxers after the fight. I mean, their noses contorted in some crazy way, their eyes looking absolutely nuts. That's a brutal fight. In fact, I was watching an old fight. Sugar Ray, was it Sugar Ray Robinson against Jack DeMota?
Jake LaMotta.
Jake LaMotta. And he fought like 8 rounds with broken ribs, man.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely brutal. I was like, it was almost
brutal sport you can imagine, dude. It's the most brutal sport you can imagine. But to answer that question, the answer is no. Like I just spoke in terms of like a union. There's no real union for fighters. It's almost you have to trust that your management will take care of you. You have to trust that the people that are around you are giving you the proper information that you can, get your own policy, get your own health insurance and so forth. And in a lot of scenarios, that's not the case, man. That's not the case.
Wow. And Lamar, one of the things that I've seen as well, women boxers are becoming a lot more popular. If not even in the boxing ring, but on the MMA mat.
Right.
What is your take on that? And how did you see that industry kind of flourish in the last like 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, no, it's definitely flourished more. I would say that the the involvement of people like Layla Ali, which she's retired since. And matter of fact, Layla Ali has just been inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame this year. This year she will be inducted. So congratulations, Layla. But Layla has been a good force in terms of bringing boxing to the forefront for females. There's a woman right now, Claressa Shields, who has been tremendous in the ring. She is I believe, a 2-time Olympic gold winner, but she's become a professional, and since then she's done nothing but made noise, man. And she's actually stepping into the MMA ring her next fight. But the reason she is doing that is because female boxing doesn't generate the same kind of money as obviously the men do. But it's like I said, they're making noise, and that's attributed just to the I would say the women movement overall. Overall, women are demanding much more respect for everything that they do, and that includes in the boxing ring as well. So you will see more. You will see more of women boxing. We just recently had a woman by the name of Jessica McCaskill fight a woman. Goodness, she's from Australia. good. I can't recall her name right now, but great matchup. But with that, she was, sort of labeled as the top female boxer in the world. Jessica came in and pretty much took all of her titles. Jessica's a young woman who went from homeless, from being a homeless individual to becoming a world champion. So there's a story right there. So along with boxing, with the men as well, when you have these stories of these, these characters and the people that the things they've overcome, I think help brings the sport to the forefront. So I look forward to seeing, more buzz, in that world, especially with Clarissa as well.
Thanks. And I know you've conducted like some really big interviews with some of the biggest boxing stars. Out of all the interviews you've conducted, which one would you say was the most compelling?
Compelling. You know what? I worked for the New York Daily News, covering boxing for those guys for 2 years, and I would have to say, the New York Daily News puts on amateur competitions, the Golden Glove competitions in New York City, and I had the opportunity to interview the fighters immediately after their wins, immediately after their losses, just to do sort of the reports for the Daily News. And in terms of compelling, I would say it would be those individuals, these amateur fighters, because these guys are fighting just for, I don't want to call it a trinket, but Golden Glove awards and so forth. This wasn't money. It's just to hear some of the stories that they were telling, the reason they wanted to fight and, what got them in the ring. I would say it's most compelling. Now, the most exciting for me, again, I was saying, just coming up as a huge boxing fan. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and Sugar Ray Leonard was my hero, man. Sugar Ray Leonard was my hero. So I had an opportunity to sit down with Sugar. So I would say that was a special moment for me.
Yeah, you know what? Sugar Ray Leonard was my hero, and I wanted him to win that fight against Hagler. And I thought at the time that he won that fight against Hagler. But just recently, I rewatched that fight. I don't know. Hagler now with an adult eye. And, about what? It was maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago, almost.
Just about, yeah.
Just about 30 years ago. I'm looking at that fight now. I'm like, yo, Hagler was getting it in. I don't know. Sugar had that flashy, as a young person, we all liked his footwork. His hand speed was crazy. But Hagler was no joke, man. And I kind of feel bad now that Hagler lost.
I mean, and Hagler was bitter over there for a long time, man. Matter of fact, he walked away from boxing, for that reason. He was really bitter over that loss. So he felt the same way you did after watching it. again. But yeah, I mean, it was a close fight. If you can, watch it 100 times, and you might have a different opinion each and every time. But you can't deny that the two of those guys together in that ring just put on something special, man.
Man, that classic fight. I'm going to go on to our audience right now. And one of the questions is, boxing is a contact sport. How are they dealing with that during COVID?
Well, boxing actually, like every other sport, had to shut down just in terms of, the COVID situation. But they've figured it out in terms of boxing is a situation where it's not a team sport. There's less people involved in the moment in terms of, the actual fight. So a lot of the promoters, and I mean, not say a lot of them, the first promoter that was able to actually get these guys together back in the ring was Top Rank. Top Rank is run by Bob Arum, and what they did was they have a contract with ESPN. So they were paid to put on some fights. They still needed to put on fights in boxing. Like I said, unlike some of the other sports, were able to come together a lot quicker and put on shows during COVID. So because there are less people that were involved, they were able to put on sort of this bubble thing, which, the NBA ended up doing for the league in Florida, but MGM in Vegas created their own little bubble and put on some boxing matches. Some of the fighters said it was challenging in terms of being able to work out. You can't hit the gyms and so forth, so they had to be creative in their workouts, and so a lot of them ran, to stay in shape and things like that. Some of the things that you can, do outside of the gym to stay in shape. But early on, you can see that a lot of the guys were rusty. But as the months went on, and we're getting through this COVID situation, December was a huge month for boxing. We had a championship fight that happened in the UK. So cats are figuring it out in terms of putting events together.
Got it.
It's just in terms of individuals, the fighters. I mean, it's a sport where you can stay. You stay in shape. You treat your body right. You can get back into it.
And we're going to stay on that point right there. But I do want to recognize a question by Brother Kevin Anderson. First, he said, "Nice sweater, brother."
Thank you, sir.
He said, "Should boxing be under one sanction, and would that cut down on corruption?" But before you answer that question, Lamar, I want to go back to boxing while we're in COVID, and one of the things that we've seen, especially in the hood right now, they have these illegal fight clubs right now in the hood, man.
Right.
Someone's backyard.
Right.
Folks are knuckling it up, and in fact, there's some legislation in New York that's being introduced by Assemblyman Clyde Vernell in the state legislature because it's creating a dangerous situation not only for the communities but for the individual. I wouldn't even say boxers, but fighters who are fighting in these fight clubs. They're going in the backyard. There's no medical personnel there. There's heavy gambling happening as well. And with gambling, it brings some other elements that may not necessarily be conducive to a healthy community. Have you heard about that, and have you seen that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what, man, it's like you said, we're smack in the middle of COVID, man, and the hustle don't stop. For cats that this street fighting has always been going on. It's just something that's been underground. But the thing with that is that it's not sanctioned. It's not a sanctioned sport, and cats are going to do what they're going to do to try to get their money. We're in COVID, so all of that stuff is accelerated, in my opinion, right now. Dudes are trying to hustle and get as much money as they can. So if you can put on a backyard fight and make some bread, and cats don't want to be indoors and so forth, that's really what's happening right now. It's COVID, so cats are out there, they're hustling, but the key is to sort of work your way out of that. I don't know how you can possibly do it in terms of as a promoter, because once you get caught and things go bad, they're bad. But we know about fighters who sort of come out of that world. Kimbo Slice, I know you're familiar with Kimbo. Yeah. Kimbo ended up being a big MMA fighter, but he started out as a street fighter. In Florida. I don't know if you've seen some of those viral videos of Kimbo. So I mean, it's not the best scenario. It's probably the worst scenario, just in terms of the health of a fighter and a boxer and so forth. But it's real, and that's what's happening right now.
I mean, it's real to the point where I was driving down Merrick Boulevard not too long ago, and right there in St. Albans Park, they had a street fight going on, man. And
we're talking bare knuckles, man. We're not talking about
bare knuckles, no gloves, no
boxing gloves and so forth.
And bottom line is, if you get knocked out, your head is cracking on that concrete too. It's like there's no safety involved at all. And I'm saying this is brutal, bro. Absolutely. Yeah. But as you mentioned, the struggle continues for a lot of these brothers out there. They're saying, hey, listen, COVID era, no gyms are opened up. I got to find a way to make money. And not that it wasn't there before, but now I think it's a bit more prevalent than it was before.
Just like, if you're you're outside and there's you're in the park and everybody's out in the park and you got the basketball courts over there, you got the baseball field over there, and let a fight break out.
Mm.
The crowd's going to be there. Everybody's coming over to see exactly what's going on, man. So what's happening is cats have figured out, what, let's see if we can profit off of this. So that's what that story is. But to answer Kevin's question, absolutely, sanctioning the sport is sanctioned. The sport is sanctioned by state, athletic commissioning organizations, but to be able to bring this thing together in same way, like I said, the NFL has a league where they have a league of owners and so forth. The NBA, boxing doesn't have that. There was a way to create that amongst the promoters. That would be great. So then we would be able to get some of the things we talked about earlier, like health insurance and life insurance and all the things that, the NBA Players Association brings to their players and so forth. They have representation and so forth. Again, boxing does not have that because the promoters aren't willing to get together to make that happen. Why they are not? Well, because, there's so much money in, being a promotion entity alone by yourself that there's no need to sort of bring this thing together. If I'm a promoter like Top Rank and I have an association with ESPN and I have a stable full of fighters and so forth, and then you're in operation over here where you're Golden Boy and you have the same scenario going on over here, it's more of a competition thing opposed to coming together. You come together, the money actually gets smaller in that scenario. Unlike, where the NBA and the NFL, like, we're in association with stadiums and so forth, so the money moves a little different in boxing. So for that reason, these promoters are real hesitant to bring that world together, in terms of one entity, one sanctioning body, one league kind of thing. So that's been the issue for the longest time, man.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in the foreseeable future, it doesn't look like there's going to be one sanctioning body.
I can't see it, man. I can't see it. There's just too much money. This is just spread around, man. And then you have to consider that boxing is also an international sport too. You have to in the UK, some of their fighters. You talk about the heavyweight champion, Tyson Fury. Matter of fact, two of the heavyweight champions, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, are from the UK. So to bring all of these worlds sort of together, I mean, it's a big, it's a huge task. It's a huge task in terms of making it one. I don't see it in my lifetime, but I didn't see COVID coming either.
Hey, Diane Lake, our very good friend here at All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast, she has a great boxing question. Do you think clinching in boxing should be banned? And have you seen an out of shape boxer use it excessively and win the match?
That's a good question. Clinching is actually a part of boxing in terms of a technique. Now, clinching too much, you get penalized for it, and rightfully so. Have I ever seen an out of shape boxer use it and win a match? No, and I pray that I never see that. But clinching is a part of boxing in terms of there's moments where you get hurt, and you need to clinch, and you need to gather yourself. It's a part of getting your yourself back together. But clinching too much, nobody likes that. Nobody wants to see a fight where guys are just sort of in there to not get hit and protect themselves. Other means than bobbing and weaving. So I don't think it should be banned because it is a part of boxing. At some points you do need it. But I appreciate the referees who penalize the fighters for that, and that's their job. So you can clinch, but not enough that's gonna win you a fight. I've never seen that. I've never seen someone clinch so much that they won a fight. I've seen clinching where they've lost a fight, overdoing it. But in terms of winning a fight, no, I haven't seen that.
Got it. Got it. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I can tell, Diane, you are a boxing enthusiast. She's asking the real tough questions here. Well, we're going to take a quick break and go into our sponsors. I want to just thank our sponsors for helping us carry this show. So if you could just bear with us, in fact, hit the share, subscribe, and like button right now. And we're going to take a pause for the cause and come right back to you. Our first sponsor, The Final Call. You could get a copy of The Final Call at any block where you see the brothers from the Fruit of Islam with The Final Call and Bean Pie. And in case you don't see our brothers, you could catch The Final Call on finalcalldigital.com and subscribe. And The Final Call will offer you the unadulterated truth and uncompromising truth. In fact, if you get the finalcalldigital.com, you can put in the search query Muhammad Ali, and you'll see some of the stories that you may not find in the traditional media about Muhammad Ali and what he has done for not only the sport of boxing, but what he's done for the oppressed people around the world. In fact, one of the untold stories involved the brother to Muhammad Ali left right there, Minister Abdul Rahman Muhammad, may God be pleased with him. He was one of the brothers, the first brother actually, to introduce Muhammad Ali to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. He has a book entitled I Walked with the Great Ones. This book is absolutely phenomenal, and it talks about his life story as he walked with Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and Don King. So oftentimes when you read about Muhammad Ali, you read about Muhammad Ali, but from the lenses of those who actually opposed him at the time that he was standing up the way that he did. When he said, "My name is no longer Cassius Clay, my name is Muhammad Ali," and some of the boxers refused to call him Muhammad Ali, he actually was punishing them in the ring, saying, "What's my name?" Muhammad Ali, what's my name? And the significance of the name, they said, your name is worth more than gold, was highly significant, especially when he fought George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. At the time, our brothers and sisters on the continent thought that Muhammad Ali was one of theirs, and he is, but they actually thought that he was a native fighter, and they thought George Foreman was a white man. And until George Foreman came down with his German Shepherd, and they saw who he was, and then they saw Muhammad Ali as one of their own, and they accepted Muhammad Ali based on the fact that he was able to let go of the legacy that had been placed upon him from his name. And you can find out some integral and intimate stories about Muhammad Ali in this great book, I Walked with the Great Ones, by Minister Abdul Rahman Muhammad. Next is our brother. He's joining us right here live in studio, Brother Lamar Clark. He's not only a boxing enthusiast, but he's also an entrepreneur. This brother has a website that offers his apparel. It's called boxingaficionado.com. And in fact, Brother Lamar, if you want to talk a bit about your brand, please do so, brother.
Oh, cool, man. And thank you for allowing me to, man. It's boxing aficionado, and what it is being in this industry, I felt like I knew the demographic. I spent a lot of time going to the fights and so forth, and just kind of wanted to deliver a product to this audience. And what I came up with was, boxing fans are fickle in terms of it's such a niche sport that we want to represent ourselves to the fullest in terms of our knowledge and so forth. Everybody, everybody in my crew, we constantly just talking boxing, man. We try to talk each other in terms of boxing and so forth, man. So what I did was I tried to come up with a product, that sort of spoke the language that we did, and with that being said, it was about the weight classes. There are 17 weight classes in boxing, going from the heavyweight down to the strawweight. And so what I did was I created, sort of these graphics to put on these hats, which seemed to resonate with the audience. I've been semi-successful in terms of putting the product out, and the industry sort of appreciating it. So that's what it is right now. I've been doing it from 2016, and hope to expand on that. Right now, I've just been doing hats. Did a couple of t-shirts and so forth, but they've been selling well, and the boxing industry has actually picked them up in terms of some of the fighters, just like the styling of them and been wearing them. So that's helped me out a lot.
Nice. And brother, if you weigh about 189 pounds, what division is that? What weight class is that?
189.
Yeah, 189.
189 is the cruiserweight, which is right up under heavyweight. Okay, the heavyweight limit is 200 and over.
Oh, okay.
So cruiserweight is from 175 to 200. So is that you?
That's me. I'm cruiserweight, Jordan. It's COVID. I'm trying to stay at the cruiserweight. I don't want to get to the heavyweight yet, brother.
Yeah. Well, you can work your way down to light heavyweight. Light heavyweight is 175, man, and that's the direction I'm working for too, as well, man.
Okay, I'm working towards the light heavyweight division. And thank you, brother. And I would ask all of our listening audience, go patronize our brother at boxingaficionado.com. If you need to see how it's spelled, BOXINGAFICIONADO.com, and grab one of the snapbacks and represent your weight class.
Cool. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And we have with us, as well as one of our sponsors, have a blissfuljourney.com. It has all of your hair needs to our sisters that's wearing it natural, that's wearing it not natural, that's just wearing it and loving themselves. Go to haveablissfuljourney.com and patronize our wonderful sister out in Atlanta who provide these beautiful products, smell good, and all of that. And I know because I have someone in my household who's a client. So check it out, haveablissfuljourney.com. And if you're in Brooklyn, down from the Barclays Center where all the big boxing matches take place, there's a family business called BK9. BK9, right down the street from the Barclays Center. They have some jerk wings, some cotton cassava cakes, some soups, jerk chicken, oxtail, BK9 burgers, all that good stuff for 25% off. Just let them know you heard it right here on All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast, and let them know that you heard it here and you want your 25% off on Mondays. Merry Mondays, every Monday.
Man, you got me hungry.
Yes, sir. The food is delicious. The food is delicious. And if you have any design needs or marketing needs, check out 231 Design. That's a brother that did our logo. He does a lot of our flyers. Michael A. Clark. He's also a football coach for the Rosa Jets Football Association, where he volunteers his time, his service, and his resources to the organization. 231 Designs. And we also have, as a first-time advertiser here at All Men Are Not Created Equal, Kamiko Bags. And you could check her out. And some of the items she has, you get a 10% discount plus free shipping with the coupon code My Brother. My MY space brother. 2 words, My Brother, and you can get some of these wonderful products here that we're going to show you. Some weekenders, some bracelets. Check the product out. And so if you've been if you didn't go shopping yet, support black owned, all black. Right here, check out some of the products. Kamiko Bag, right there. That's Sister Kamiko. Get 10% off plus free shipping. Coupon code is My Space Brother. Support our sister. She has great product. She has great prices as well, and you get 10% off just by putting in the coupon code My Brother. And we're gonna hold this right here, KamikoBag.com, for our listening audience. KIMIKO BAG.com. Kamiko Bag at iCloud.com as well. If you want to send her an email or if you want to call her, you can call her at 917-579-8230. And I'm going to ask my production team if you could just put her products very quickly. Again, just run through her products very quickly to let the audience see some of the products that she has for sale.
Nice.
Great stuff. And we want to thank our production team, Sister Kenya, Brother Musa, for the wonderful work they're doing behind the scenes, making sure our episode goes smoothless and seamless. Thank you so much, Sister Kenya, Brother Musa. Now back to the world of boxing. Brother Lamar, we've seen some exhibitions lately.
Yeah.
Man, and one of the exhibitions, well, this wasn't even, I'm not going to talk about the exhibition yet. I'm talking about the real fight between our brother Nate Robinson and that web influencer. What's his name again?
Was it Jake Paul or his brother? But he's a YouTube guy, and he's got a tremendous following, millions of followers, and he challenged Nate Robinson to a boxing match.
Man, and I got to tell you, Brother Lamar, when I saw Nate Robinson come out there with the blue and orange New York Knicks attire, I knew he was in trouble.
Really?
I said, shoot, nothing goes right with the Knicks, man. The Knicks
You're
can't get
a Knicks fan, right? You're a diehard fan, right?
and I love the Knicks, man, but come on. I said, man, Nate is in trouble. But seriously speaking, though, I thought Nate was going to do better than he did, though. And looking at physically, Nate looked like he was in great shape. But I guess when you put on those boxing gloves, it's a totally different story.
Well, I mean, it goes to show you that boxing is a game that you don't play, man. You don't play, man. And like this was Nate's pro debut. So this was the first fight he's actually had, as a professional in the ring. And this was a kid that he fought his second fight. Now, you may say that, 2 fights in the ring doesn't make a huge difference. But as we saw, it made a tremendous difference in terms of, just the moment and the skill set, and Nate Robinson, as we know, is a hell of an athlete, man. He's one of the greatest. Well, let me not say greatest. I don't want to put that on him, but, in terms of an athlete, he was a professional NBA player, which is not an easy task. He did it for years. He actually became the slam dunk, contest winner. He had a bunch of challenges in terms of his height in reaching that level. So we know how great of an athlete he was, But again, the skill set that it takes for boxing, it's different, man. And he paid the the ultimate price in terms of getting in there and not I don't want to say he wasn't prepared, but the other kid was more prepared.
Is there an update on how he's doing, man? Because it kind of hurt to see him sprawled across the ring that way, and you could tell he's a serious competitor because the first time he went down, most folks wouldn't have gotten up; they just would have stayed down, and his intestinal fortitude kind of got him to spring back up, and then he took another beat, and I'm like, man.
Yeah. I mean, well, again, like I said, Nate is a competitor. We know that about him, and I haven't heard anything recently in terms of his condition, but I have to assume that he walked out of the ring that night. He was conscious. He walked out of the ring that night, so I'm assuming that he's fine. He's okay. But
do you think those types of matches are actually good for the sport, or?
Well, in terms of exhibitions, like I said, man, the guy he fought, that was his second fight. So, I mean, it was a sanctioned fight. They were professional fighters. This goes on their record. Theirs wasn't an exhibition. This actually went on their record in terms of a professional fight, and that was Nate's debut. Now, for Roy Jones and Mike Tyson, they were retired fighters. This was more of an exhibition for those guys. and I was highly entertained for that fight. And, just the night overall. You know what I mean? Like Nate did go down, and he was knocked out, but it was a tremendous night of boxing for me. As a diehard fan. In COVID, and not a lot going on, so I enjoyed the night of exhibition. Yeah.
Got it.
What'd
And
you think of Roy and Tyson? What'd you think?
Roy and Tyson, I wanted to see a classic Mike Tyson knockout, although at the same time, I understood that if Mike Tyson were to knock him out or knock him down, it could be fatal. So I didn't want to see that.
Right.
So,
Right.
at the same time, I wanted to, for both men to walk out with all their faculties. And I think that happened. So to me, that was a success. But, the boxing fan in me kind of, we thrive off those knockouts and knockdowns, man.
Right.
It's like that's the ultimate in boxing when you see a knockout.
I know on the fence in terms of watching that fight. You know what I mean? Because it's like the lead up was that neither one would be knocked out. But I mean, I don't see how you can approach a Mike Tyson fight or even a Roy Jones fight, but not that intention. You know what I mean? But the fight played out. It was funny. It kind of played out as if it was them in their prime. You know what I mean? With Roy moving and trying to stay away and pop shotting and so forth. It played out as if they were in their primes now. You can turn down the dial in terms of speed and reflexes and so forth. But again, like I said, I appreciated seeing those guys in the ring. I appreciated the fact that they did not, hurt each other in a way that could have been, a bad situation for both of them. But good for them, man, and they made some money.
Correct. And I have to be totally transparent. I stopped watching boxing the way that I used to when Tyson lost.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been the same boxing fan after that Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, and I can remember that vividly. I was on the campus of Morehouse College, and one of my in the football dorms, and one of my teammates came down, and it was like late at night. It was some odd hour, and they said they were celebrating Tyson lost, because as you know, everybody outside of New York don't like New Yorkers. So they were gloating in the Tyson defeat, and I didn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, they're playing a practical joke. Because at that time, nobody thought Tyson was beatable. Like Iron Mike Tyson. That name was just crazy. And he personified and embodied everything of a New Yorker. His swag was New York, just everything about Tyson. So we took great pride in Tyson being who he was when he was at the top of his game, right?
Yeah, man.
So where were you, brother, when Tyson lost? Because it seemed like the whole earth stopped, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know what, man? I was in college. I was I can't remember what year it was for me. I was a freshman year in Hampton University, and I will never forget this day because my good friend David Martin, we were watching the fight, pay-per-view, bunch of cats at the fight, and when Tyson got knocked out, David jumped up so high that he came down on his ankle and broke his ankle that night, broke his ankle that night, man. So I'll never forget that night. But like you were saying, you were from New York. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., man. And we just love Mike Tyson just because he was a beast, man. Just this beast mode attitude and so forth. And, we all went to that fight thinking that Mike would never be beaten, and to see him go down the way he did against Buster Douglas was a shock. It was a shock, But Mike Tyson for me, again, I can't put him in that category of Sugar Ray because I was sort of like my youth growing up. But Tyson's another guy that I loved. Yeah,
got it. So, and looking at some of the more recent fighters who are making like big time names, Wilder, Money Mayweather, and some of these folks. What are some of the differences you see with them outside of the ring in comparison to some of the fighters of yesteryear outside of the ring?
Well, one example, well, let's just use Floyd as an example, man. And when you talk about outside of the ring, I know Floyd catches a bad rap in terms of some of the characteristics he presents in terms of money and things like that, man. But you gotta I respect Floyd for the way he sort of changed the game in terms of the way the money has been moved in terms of from the promotion to the actual fighter. Floyd stayed back. He learned his craft. Obviously, he's at the point he is because of what he's done in the ring, but what he's done outside of the ring has been phenomenal, man. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. So that's some of the things that I see outside. The difference between some of the old school fighters and the new school fighters, the control that some of these new guys have taken over their career.
But when we think about Floyd, we see the public persona, which is this brass guy who is flaunting his cars, his money,
Mhm.
his houses. He's getting that bag, and we may not see some of the other sides. Are there other sides of Floyd, you think, beyond the braggadocio young brother who's just
Um,
look
I,
like
I,
he's careless?
I do, and like I said, I'm not. You should take note of those things. I think we can all become better as we grow, and then I think that time will tell in terms of Floyd's contribution to mankind. But earlier we talked about this sort of fraternity that the boxers have, man, and people may not know that you know Joe Frazier, when he passed, Floyd Mayweather was one of the fighters who stepped up and played for his funeral.
Mm,
So those are
mm.
some of the things that people may not know. That as a boxing fraternity, Floyd Mayweather is, you know, has played a role. Has
Uh,
played a significant role in that way. He's become a promoter as well, which he's bringing up a lot of young African American fighters. You know, and he's also sort of been influenced by his manager, which is Al Heyman. Al Heyman is a boss that a lot of people are not necessarily familiar with in terms of a promoter. Al Heyman's not necessarily a promoter, but he's a manager. But what he has done, he's gathered a stable of fighters, majority of them African American fighters, and has done them well in terms of leading them in a financial direction that has been pretty significant. So that's some of the difference in terms of the old school and the new school, and some of the things that you don't see that's happening in front of the camera, some of the behind the scenes guys. So cats like
and I
Floyd,
think
like
and I think that's a
Al
major
Heyman,
story.
they matter.
And thanks for that, brother Lamar. I think that's a major story when you talked about Floyd Mayweather subsidizing the funeral of George Frazier, right?
Yeah, smoking Joe
Joe
Frazier.
Joe
You
Joe
know,
Frazier. I called
And
him
just to
George
think
Frazier.
about this, Joe Frazier,
Joe.
we're talking about one of our heroes, a guy that will go down in history as one of the I don't know, nemesis of Muhammad Ali, but still one of ours, and
Correct.
literally died broke. So
Mm.
that is the difference between what's going on now and then. And it
Yeah.
needs to be recognized.
Wow. And I think that story needs to get out because when you think about Floyd, you just think about a young man that is almost heartless, to flaunt his all that he has in front of a community that has very little, and
Right.
not knowing that, he had the compassion to say, uh, Joe Frazier passed on. He was
Hmm.
Joe Frazier, as you said, legend. In fact, Ali is Ali based on a lot of the fights that he had with Muhammad
Joe
Ali.
Frazier, absolutely.
He pushed him to the limits, and uh, I think those stories actually have to be told because It helps to humanize Floyd, and also the perception that young black men have in the media has to be calibrated a bit, and I think those stories will go towards helping that. Well, we have another question for you. Are referees of color more accepted now, or is it still greatly unequal? And Sister Diane wants to know, and have you seen Don King?
Well, you know, Don King hasn't promoted a fight in probably a few years. Maybe his last promotion might have been maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Um, but as we know, Don King is it's getting up there in age in terms of he may be close to 90 years old. Uh, I haven't seen him in terms of promoting, like I said, within the last 5 years, but he's still around. He's still around. Still around in terms of boxing. He has, done a tremendous job for, the sport. Um, and Don ain't going nowhere. As long as Don has a voice, he's going to be around. But just in terms of his promotions, Don King Promotions hasn't done an event in a while, But trust me, I feel like we'll see Don again before this is all over. In terms of a
And there's
boxing.
another question regarding Don King here as well. It says, what are your thoughts on Don King? Did he rob his fighters?
Um, yeah, yeah, but I mean, like I said, Don King is no different from
Bob Arum, I guess, and
Bob Arum, just boxing overall. Like I said, Don King is one of the fight promoters, black promoters, and probably one of the only ones to have reached the pinnacle in terms of these mega fights and so forth. And you know again, it goes back to just boxing is it's not an organization where you know a lot of people eat uh, as a company. You know what I mean? Like it's
got
an
it.
individual thing, where you sort of put this thing together. And Don King's comes from that world. This is my this is my operation, and this is how it's going to be run. And if you don't want to be a part of it, I'll get the next cat to come on board. And that's pretty much how he function. Just like the other promoters. Um, Again, we like Don King for that reason, but we also have our opinion about Don King because of the way he financially treated some of his fighters. He did the same thing to Mike Tyson. Um, that's all I can really kind of say about the situation that Don King has presented, because they're all in terms of promoters function the exact same way. I think it's on the fighters and their managers to sort of learn the game a little more. And I say learn the game a little more, but there's knowledge out here now for these young fighters that they didn't have before. So I think it's a different situation, and we've learned that through the promotions of Don King. But I do want to answer that question about the referees. There's actually more black referees, in terms of championship fighters than ever right now. If you watch boxing, you'll see some of the top referees that are out there now. Gosh, what is one of the guy's name? Shucks, his name is slipping my mind right now. But like in terms of the
Not that
top,
brother Steele,
what's that?
Richard Steele, or is that his name?
Richard Steele is, I think, he retired since now, but Richard Steele
Okay.
was one of the leading black referees coming out of the late 80s until the early 90s, and actually spawning from him, it's been a handful of great referees, man. So if you watch boxing, you'll tend to see a lot of the championship fights now are being refereed by black black referees. We actually just lost one due to COVID recently. Is it Cotton? One of the top referees. We just lost to COVID. But there was definitely a nice crew of professional guys that are doing their job really well right now to look out for. So I hope that answered that question. But
Yeah.
did Don King rob cats? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but and I'm glad you came back to that because one of the things is that when you think about who's like the biggest thief in boxing, Don King is like the poster child for it. But what folks don't realize is that hundreds of boxes died broke and died brokenhearted, and it wasn't a result of Don King. There are
Right.
many other thieves besides Don King, and it seems as if he's the poster child of thievery when it comes to boxing. And I think that's also along the line of what happens to many of our people when there's any sort of deviant behavior. We become the face of that particular behavior. And
Right.
although Don King may have robbed folks, and he shouldn't have, but there are many more folks who did much worse than Don King that don't look like Don King.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, Don King was one of the if not the only, you know, big promoter to come along in the last, 20 years. As far, I'm saying 20 years. Don King goes way back. Let's just say the 20th century. You know, so cats have Don King it's fed some people, but he's also taken some food away. You know, yeah,
Got it. Got it. We had a couple more questions. Well, a statement. Brother Kevin Anderson said Floyd Mayweather also paid for George Floyd's memorial services,
he did. He sure did. Yeah.
and, and that also goes somewhat unnoticed. And folks may say, "Well, it's a drop in the bucket," but he did it. Oh well, it didn't cost that much anyway. He's a multi-millionaire. But the fact is, we have to balance out our perspective and also our commentary and look at it in its totality. So when we
Right.
look at Floyd Mayweather, and some of the other boxers who are out there with pretty big purses, and some of them are actually doing civic good, and so we have to recognize that as well.
Right, right, and I also look at Floyd as a man who still has room to grow, you know, like us all. So it's good that he's been recognized for some of the things he's done, including George Floyd's memorial service. Man, it's a
Yeah.
good note.
And brother Lamar, there's another question. You addressed it, but I think this is more specific to what you talked about earlier. The question is from Rose Morris. Sister said, "What do you think of women fighters like Clarissa Shields?"
Yeah, like I said, Clarissa's phenomenal in the ring, and she's a great person. She represents herself well outside of the ring as well. Um, she's from Detroit. She represents the city to the fullest, and like I said, right now she's actually stepping into the MMA arena, which is a whole nother discipline in terms of fighting and so forth. So I, uh, I love Clarissa and what she's been doing, and I wish her the best.
Got it. Well, brother Lamar, we could talk this boxing game
I was gonna
all
say, I don't think
night.
we're done. We're not done, are we?
Oh, yeah.
No, come on, man.
Man, I got to bring you back on. There's so many other aspects of this boxing world that we didn't touch on.
We
But
didn't get a chance to talk about some of these new kids, man, like Errol Spence
oh man,
and
you know what? We
Terrence
I'm
Crawford,
gonna ask the
and
production crew. I'm gonna beg them. Can we just have 5 minutes, production crew, to just talk about some of these new up and coming fighters? And I see Sister Kenya's face in the back and Brother Musa's face. They smiling, and that means yes.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, man. So 2021 is looking to be an exciting year. Like I said, I hope we've got a vaccine now, and things seem to be it seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of with COVID, man. So I I see that with boxing as well. You know, Tyson Fury and the Deontay Wilder fight. Looks like it may not happen a third fight between those two.
Mm.
But will happen is a fight between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. I don't know if you are familiar with him or your audience is familiar with him, but he's a brother out of the UK, a young guy who beat Vladimir Klitschko for his title.
Mm.
And he will be facing, well, they haven't set a fight up yet, but all the talks in the direction is that him and Tyson Fury will get together potentially in 2021, which will be a huge fight. Boxing sort of goes as the heavyweight division goes, meaning like yourself, you said that after Mike Tyson fell off, you kind of, fell out of boxing. And Mike Tyson is probably like the last, heavyweight fighter that most people, sort of related to. You've had Deontay Wilder come through, who was a devastating knockout puncher, but just didn't seem to break that ceiling in terms of popularity and so forth. So I think that boxing is looking toward a nice, rejuvenating period in 2021. And for the smaller guys, the guys at 147 pounds, we're talking about Errol Spence, who just had a fight, I guess less than a month ago, along with Terrence Crawford. I think they had fights 2 weeks apart. But there are some exciting guys who are like considered pound for pound, some of the best. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Canelo Alvarez, who is I consider the pound for pound best fighter in the world. He just had a fight 2 weeks.
Better than Floyd, pound for pound.
Yeah, pound for pound, man. Floyd actually. Well, we're talking current now. We're talking current because Canelo's only record. I mean, his only loss on his record was to Floyd.
Okay.
Fought him really early in his career, and obviously learned a lot because he's done, some phenomenal things in the ring since then. And when I say phenomenal, I'm talking about coming up in different weight classes and winning titles. His last fight he fought at 100. Now he fought Floyd at 147 pounds. His last fight he fought at 168 and won a title. So this is Canelo that I'm talking about right now. He's a force to be reckoned with, man, in boxing. But like I said, just the future of boxing is looking really bright, and I think 2021 is it's going to show us a lot. Teofimo Lopez is a kid that just won a title at 147. He beat a guy Lomachenko, who was a foreign fighter. So not a lot of people are familiar with him, but his skill sets are ridiculous. And so we had this young kid out of the Bronx that, just came. Was he from Brooklyn or the Bronx? But a New York guy, Teofimo, and they fought during COVID. And, this is a downtime for boxing, but I think they got over, 3.5 million views for that fight, So like I said, the future is looking bright for the sport. I hope the direction that again Floyd has taken, not necessarily his characteristics, but his business model. That's the business model that he's presented is taking heed to by some of these young fighters, man. So I'm excited.
Okay, and we have one last question from Sean D. Francois the first. He's the president, in fact, of DC 37 and the president of Local 372, a major labor organization here in New York City, representing over 150,000 municipal employees. He said,
right.
"What about the internet boxes?"
Well, I mean, that is
explain that a bit for us, because that may be a bit new to
well,
many.
I'm assuming that he's talking about these guys that are influencers who are boxing fans have decided to step in the ring. And one of the fights that we mentioned earlier between I swear this guy's name is Jake.
Yeah, one of our sponsors actually put in the chat, Jake something. I'll get back to him.
They're two brothers. They're two brothers, and they're influencers in terms of YouTube influencers. They got a bunch of followers and so forth, and they're boxing fans. So they've stepped into the Jake Paul,
Jake
um,
Paul.
and Logan Paul. There we go. And they have entered into the boxing arena, and it's a bit refreshing in terms of bringing attention to the sport. I don't think it's built for anybody to come in, but like I said, if you can tag yourself along to the sport and bring it up in the way they have, because what they have done is brought tons of eyeballs to the sport, even with Nate Robinson and the exhibition fight. So I'm not against what they're doing. It's as long as they take the sport serious, which they seem to be doing. I'm with it. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And Diane Lake, our wonderful visitor here, she says
Yeah, yeah,
black boxing referee Kenny Bayless does the super fights like Manny
there
Pacquiao,
you go.
Floyd
Kenny
Mayweather.
Bayless. His name has slipped my mind, but that's one of the lead referees, Kenny Bayless. Great guy.
Great, great. Brother Lamar, thanks again, man. This was a tremendous episode, brother. Thank you for bringing your insight, your knowledge,
Yeah.
and your just the vast resources here to All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. And I would love to bring you back on at a later date so that we could finish this conversation. But this was a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous episode. Do you have any closing remarks, sir?
Well, I just want to thank you for the invitation on here, man, and give you some acknowledgement for the stuff that you've been doing, man. I've been watching you for a while with the things that you do in the community and what you do for your football team, man. So I just want to say thank you for that. Boxing aficionado, you want to put a snapback on your head, check us out. Again, it's boxingaficionado.com. And that's it, man. Thank you. Like I said, appreciate you having me on, and this was fun, man. I'd love to do it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. And to our audience at All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and invite others on to our show. We're going to have a phenomenal 2021, God willing, where we're going to bring a diverse group of experts, enthusiasts, connoisseurs from a diverse field of endeavor here to the All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. Again, this is your brother Esquire, and I'm signing out. Thank you for joining us. Peace.